12 years can change a person in ways we can't always predict, and in the case of Jonathan Antoine, the operatic singer who first stunned Britain on Britain's Got Talent, the transformation is nothing short of extraordinary. Back in 2012, audiences remember him as the shy teenager with long hair, round glasses, and a voice that could silence an entire arena. Today, however, recent photos have left fans almost speechless, with many saying he looks almost unrecognizable after a dramatic weight loss journey that has reshaped not only his appearance, but his confidence and outlook on life. As a reporter following this story, what's most striking isn't just the physical difference, it's the hidden battle and determination that led him here. Observers who once associated Jonathan with insecurity and stage fright are now confronted with a man who carries himself with a newfound strength, proof of a decade of perseverance behind the headlines. But how exactly did this journey unfold, and what personal struggles drove him toward such a transformation? That's where the story truly begins. When Jonathan Antoine first appeared on Britain's Got Talent in 2012, he was just 17 years old, walking nervously onto the stage alongside his singing partner Charlotte Jaconelli. At first glance, the judges and audience didn't quite know what to expect. With his shy demeanor, round figure, and timid smile, he seemed unlikely to command the stage. But the moment he opened his mouth, everything changed. His rendition of the prayer left Simon Cowell visibly stunned, Amanda holding in tears, and millions of viewers at home scrambling to replay the performance. Jonathan became an overnight sensation, hailed as the boy Bocelli, and touted as the next big classical star. Yet behind the applause and the viral headlines, there were struggles that didn't make it onto television. In interviews years later, Jonathan admitted that he had endured relentless bullying throughout his school years, often targeted for his weight and introverted nature. The sudden fame didn't erase those wounds. In fact, it sometimes magnified them. The pressure of being in the spotlight, coupled with his own insecurities, left him grappling with anxiety and self-doubt. While the world saw a prodigy soaring, Jonathan privately felt the weight of expectations pressing down on him. It was this fragile balance between public triumph and private turmoil that defined his early career, setting the stage for the turning point that would come years later. For Jonathan Antoine, the decision to take control of his health didn't come overnight. It was a result of years of internal conflict and moments of realization that something had to change. After his initial fame, Jonathan admitted that he struggled with food as a coping mechanism, a way to shield himself from the pressures of fame and the lingering scars of bullying. But as time went on, the toll became impossible to ignore. Doctors raised concerns about his long-term health, and Jonathan himself began to feel the physical strain of carrying extra weight while performing on demanding stages. That's when the turning point arrived. Rather than opting for drastic measures, Jonathan embraced a gradual transformation. He started walking daily, reduced his portion sizes, and committed to simple, consistent habits. At first, progress was slow and frustrating, but his determination never wavered. Over the years, the results became undeniable. Pounds shed, stamina improved, and his self-confidence visibly blossomed. Fans who hadn't seen him in years were shocked when recent images emerged, showing a slimmer, sharper version of the singer they once knew. Social media lit up with comments ranging from admiration to disbelief, with many praising his discipline and resilience. Yet Jonathan often reminded interviewers that the journey wasn't just about changing his body, it was about reclaiming his life. He described the process as liberating, a way to silence the old voices of doubt that had haunted him since childhood. And while the world marveled at the physical change, Jonathan was quietly preparing for an even more profound rebirth in his personal and professional life. After the whirlwind of Britain's Got Talent faded, Jonathan Antoine faced a critical question. Would he remain a fleeting reality show star, or could he carve out a lasting career as a serious artist? The answer came through years of dedication and reinvention. Breaking away from his duo with Charlotte Jaconelli, Jonathan pursued a solo path, releasing albums that showcased not only his extraordinary tenor voice, but also his evolving artistry. His debut solo record, Tenore, stormed the charts, proving that his talent had staying power beyond the TV spotlight. Tours followed, and Jonathan's reputation grew internationally, with critics applauding his ability to blend classical technique with raw emotion. Yet the true rebirth wasn't just musical, it was deeply personal. In 2022, Jonathan publicly revealed his autism diagnosis, a revelation that reframed his struggles with anxiety, stage fright, and a sense of isolation he had felt for years. Far from holding him back, he said the diagnosis gave him clarity and a new understanding of himself. Paired with his remarkable physical transformation, this chapter of Jonathan's life marked a turning point. No longer the timid teenager hiding behind glasses and self-doubt. He emerged as a confident, self-aware man who had found balance between vulnerability and strength. Fans, once captivated by his voice, now admired his courage to share his truth. But as inspiring as this rebirth was, it also shone a light on the challenges that had nearly derailed his journey, struggles that until recently remained hidden from public view. Behind the applause and standing ovations, Jonathan Antoine was fighting battles that few outside his close circle ever saw. Long before his dramatic transformation, Jonathan admitted he carried deep scars from childhood bullying, where classmates mocked his weight and quiet demeanor. Those experiences, he said, planted seeds of self-doubt that grew into anxiety and depression during his rise to fame. Even as his voice drew comparisons to the greats, Jonathan struggled to believe in himself. At his lowest moments, he confessed to feeling overwhelmed, even entertaining dark thoughts about whether life was worth continuing. Yet in interviews, John had tearfully avoided blunt words, choosing instead to speak about times when everything felt too heavy to carry. His honesty shocked fans who had assumed success had shielded him from such pain. What made it more complicated was the spotlight itself. The very thing that had given him fame also amplified his insecurities. Each performance was a tug-of-war between his extraordinary gift and the fear of not being enough. Mental health professionals later praised Jonathan for opening up, saying his story encouraged others to speak without shame. Still, Jonathan was candid that recovery wasn't linear. There were setbacks, moments when progress stalled, and times when he leaned on music as his lifeline. Through it all, his resilience became a quiet inspiration. His struggles revealed a truth rarely discussed in celebrity culture, that transformation isn't just about the body, but about healing the mind and reclaiming a sense of worth. And as Jonathan confronted those demons, he slowly built the foundation for the life he leads today. Today, Jonathan Antoine stands as a very different figure from the teenager who once trembled before Simon Cowell on live television. Recent appearances show a slimmer, more confident man, and his voice, always his greatest gift, remains as powerful as ever. He has continued to record albums, perform across the world, and engage with fans who have followed his journey from the beginning. What makes his story compelling now is not just the music, but the message. Jonathan often speaks about self-acceptance, perseverance, and the importance of mental health, using his platform to inspire others facing similar struggles. His 2022 revelation of being on the autism spectrum also gave fans deeper insight into his life, reframing how they understood his sensitivity and challenges. Far from slowing down, Jonathan appears to be entering a new era of creativity, with projects that aim to blend classical crossover with fresh, modern influences. Supporters say his latest work shows an artist not only surviving, but thriving, proof that resilience can blossom into reinvention. And with talk of new tours and recordings on the horizon, Jonathan is reminding the world that his story is far from over. The boy once written off as too shy, too insecure, now commands the stage as a man determined to define his own legacy. But the question remains, after everything he has endured, how will Jonathan Antoine use this new chapter of his life to shape the future of his career and the impact he leaves behind? Jonathan Antoine's journey over the past 12 years is more than a story about fame or dramatic weight loss. It's a story of resilience, reinvention, and the quiet battles that shape a person behind the spotlight. From a bullied teenager who stunned the world on Britain's Got Talent to a man who now looks almost unrecognizable after a life-changing transformation, Jonathan has shown that true change is never just physical. His courage to speak openly about mental health, his autism diagnosis, and the personal struggles that nearly broke him has redefined how fans see him, not only as an extraordinary voice, but as a human being who fought to reclaim his own narrative. Today, Jonathan's slimmer frame may surprise those who remember the shy boy of 2012, but his story runs deeper. It's about surviving the pressures of fame, confronting inner demons, and finding strength in vulnerability. As he continues his career, the lasting impression is not just the operatic notes he hits on stage, but the reminder that even behind the most powerful voices lie fragile truths. And perhaps that is the greatest takeaway of all. Jonathan Antoine is not just unrecognizable in appearance, but unrecognizable in the way he now embodies confidence, purpose, and the resilience of someone who refused to let his struggles define his future.